continuing on page 54 on the Opening of the Eyes lecture by Daisaku Ikeda, translated by Burton Watson.
Yep.
The subtitle on the second column of page 54, that where we're going to start off from, starts, the root cause of slander of the law. What is that saying? When somebody says the root cause of slander of the law, what would you be referring to immediately?
Not believe.
Exactly, which is the cause of the slander of not being able to perceive your Buddha nature or the Buddha nature in others. It's what keeps you a common mortal. This is the devil of the sixth heaven.
Yes.
Okay, this is what makes the devil of the sixth heaven manifest. Okay, that action in the past. Okay.
Yep.
So we all have fundamental darkness in our lives, even at the state of perfect enlightenment, not near perfect enlightenment. So as common mortals, we can be Buddhas. Otherwise, that wouldn't be possible. So let's start by reading the root cause of slander of the law. Because basically, again, this is the slander that creates all other karma. Do you understand that? We've already studied that before. But again, what is the basis of all misfortune, all suffering, all everything that's not pleasant? Slander of the law.
Yeah.
Okay, this is bad karma. Now this is different than what you experience with the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils, though, because those are brought out based on your attainment. You're approaching attainment of Buddhahood, which means you've taken the vow. You're not going to fall back. You've made a determination that you're going to continue till you break through. So if you've made that determination, you ultimately will. Correct? All right. This is the thing that can stop you. Okay, and then create slander as a result of having been able to stop you. Do you understand? All right, so in the Opening of the Eyes, the Daishonin points out that devils possess high-ranking priests who seem thoroughly conversant with the teachings of Buddhism, and through these priests they work to mislead many people. Now this is Nichiren's declaration, not Daisaku Ikeda's. Okay, but we can see that the reason that there's confusion about what is the correct teaching is that there are a lot of incorrect teachers in this world teaching incorrect teachings. So it's this influence that actually makes that evil. It's not something about them in and of themselves. The practitioners, I'm saying, they're being misinformed. And so are the teachers themselves. They've been misinformed. Not many people set out to purposely delude for the sake of deluding or tricking people. They're in an earnest, a sincere act of devotion for what they believe to be the truth. The problem is that since it isn't the truth, it creates the opposite effect of the one that they're trying to have manifest. So, in other words, devilish functions take over those who command a great deal of spiritual influence in society, aiming to confuse large numbers and cause them to fall into the evil paths. It is not that the teachings of Shakyamuni expounded prior to the Lotus Sutra are slanderous in and of themselves. See it there? It is not that the teachings Shakyamuni expounded prior to the Lotus Sutra are slanderous in and of themselves. When we say the provisional teachings, going to lead Nibbutsu, going to lead you to hell. Zen's a work of the heavenly devil. Precepts is a traitor to the nation. All those the 4 dictums, right? He's qualifying that all those beliefs based on specific teachings are all going to lead to the evil paths, correct? But he's saying it's not that those teachings, and those teachings are all expressed as teachings of Shakyamuni, the provisional teachings, correct? The sutras that they're based on. So he's saying, he's qualifying, don't misunderstand, it's not Shakyamuni's provisional teachings that are the problem. It's what the embracing of them in the wrong time leads to. Okay? Do you understand? So he says, it is not that the teachings Shakyamuni expounded prior to the Lotus Sutra are slanderous in and of themselves. The problem lies with the aberrant priests who become attached to these teachings, misuse them, and denigrate the Lotus Sutra. Because if you explored the entire canon of Mahayana Buddhism, what would you come up with? you would eventually encounter the Lotus and Nirvana Sutras, correct? Mm-hmm. It's when you have not expressly pursued with a seeking spirit the entire canon of the Mahayana Sutras that you fall short in encountering the Lotus and Nirvana. Do you understand? You decide you heard the Flower Garland Sutra and you like what it says because it's way heavy, and it is. The Kegon Sutra is the second most profound sutra outside of the Lotus Sutra and Nirvana Sutra. Do you understand? It contains the most perfect, the biggest components of the perfect teaching of the provisional teachings are in the Flower Garland Sutra. Flower Garland Sutra actually makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways with a lot of things, but it doesn't make sense with everything. That's the difference between it and the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra makes sense of everything without leaving out anything. It is the only teaching that does that. That's why it's called the perfect teaching. And to stop short of experiencing that is what causes the slander. It's not the teaching, it's the fact that you didn't go through that teaching as an expedient means and have it lead you to where it was actually supposed to. It was supposed to lead you to the Lotus Sutra. It was supposed to lead you to the Immeasurable Meaning Sutra. Okay? Do you understand? All right, so it is not that the teachings of Shakyamuni expounded prior to the Lotus Sutra are slanderous in and of themselves. We are not attacking them on that basis. The problem lies with aberrant priests who become attached to these teachings. In other words, they don't pursue the full teaching. They don't ever get to the Lotus and Nirvana teaching of the perfect teaching. Do you understand? They get all enamored with whatever trappings, whatever dogma, whatever social position goes along with the teachings that they're professing, and they continue to innocently misguide, innocent people who are innocently misled. So the point is that, again, encountering the perfect teaching is karmic. It's not by accident. It is because of your diligence in the past that you're either manifesting a karmic reality in this life to encounter it, or you're re-experiencing it and carrying forward in the process of teaching it others. Manifesting again in the Sahe world, even though you've already attained Buddhahood, in order to express Buddha nature as a bodhisattva of the earth. Do you understand? Yeah. All right, so misuse them and denigrate the Lotus Sutra. How do they denigrate the Lotus Sutra? By teaching anything that's provisional. Because the Lotus Sutra says don't teach the provisional teachings. So if you preach the provisional teachings, you're denigrating the teaching of the Lotus Sutra in that very act. Do you understand? You don't have to cop attitudes about what the Lotus Sutra says. It's just by doing a continuation of what was supposed to be an expedient means that stopped at the end of the middle day of the law. Do you understand? Because the perfect teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is not the perfect teaching of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra. It's the Buddhism of the sowing. It only occurs in the latter day. Do you understand? Yes. So, by misrepresenting the fact that these teachings that were to be training wheels, were to be expedient means to get people on the path, that is a natural and innate nature within the entities that are manifested in the latter day. Do you understand? Do you understand? The bodhisattvas of the earth manifest in the latter day. All right? Bodhisattvas of the earth don't manifest in the former or the middle day. We're not the disciples of Shakyamuni. We're disciples of the original teacher. The original teacher's teaching only comes forth in the latter day, which lasts for an infinite period of time. We don't want to be in one of those 2,000-year segments. That means that something else has got to replace what we're doing. Do you understand? It means we didn't really get to the true teaching. You follow? Okay. I know I'm spending a lot of time, but I'm trying to break down. This all makes sense. There's a reason why the teaching is the teaching. Okay? So, this is the root cause of slander of the law. Furthermore, propagating the correct teaching in the latter days starts with overcoming the ignorance and delusion of those who support such slanderous priests. That means converting others, the process of shakabuku. All right? Of refuting the evil, of standing up and professing the true teaching, of saying, no, that's really actually not right, no matter what becomes of us in the process of having to accomplish that. As the Daishonin indicates when he says, fundamental darkness manifests itself as the devil king of the sixth heaven, from the treatment of illness, which is the Gosho I talked about last time. The true nature of the devil king is the fundamental darkness or illusion in the lives of all people. What is that fundamental darkness or illusion pertaining to? Their true identities as Buddhas exactly as they are. Okay, that's what's being disguised from them. That's what's being discouraged from them being able to perceive and embrace as a constant understanding. I mean, what gets you through decades and decades and decades of practice? Strictly faith. Because there will be times when you're hitting dry wells. That's why it says, be prepared to encounter difficulties. That's why it says, don't have everything being like an ATM kind of faith. That's why the vow means something. Once you've taken the vow, it doesn't matter whether you don't get another benefit for the rest of your freaking life. Okay? A nice thing, a good thing, a lack of difficulty. You've taken a vow. That means that regardless of whatever happens, you're never going to quit. That's what the vow is. You have sworn you will never go Titan. All right? That's the vow. That's why it's important. Dispelling innate ignorance in the people's hearts requires us to resolutely stand against and defeat evil influences and what Buddhism calls bad friends. Now that's akuzishiki, right? Zinshishiki is good friends. Akuzushiki is bad friends. Okay, what is a bad friend? A bad person?
No.
What is a bad friend?
Make you don't believe.
Maybe you don't believe.
Anybody, anything that takes you. But again, your belief comes from your practice of faith to the Gohonzon. It doesn't come from what you think you know. That's not faith. Okay, so people talking about changing your mind, they cannot possibly change your mind if you're practicing correctly because you're in front of the Gohonzon every day, refreshing that connection to the law. Do you understand? It's when people get you away from practice, correct practice, that you're not able to replenish the connection to the correct teacher, that influence can carry you away so that you then start to become susceptible to the influence of fundamental darkness. Fundamental darkness can never, ever defeat you if you never stop chanting to the Gohonzon. Impossible. Impossible. So the only way you can be defeated by fundamental darkness is to have some aspect or influence in life stop you from refreshing your 10th world. Okay? That's why a bad friend can be anything from somebody that discourages your faith as being something stupid or something that's not real, or somebody that says, man, everything you're saying is absolutely true. Now let's go party. Or let's go do this, or let's go do that. Or people that influence you to slander the Buddha nature and others by appealing to your innate animality. We all have animality in our lives. By ganging up on somebody, creating onshitsu, rumors, disparaging comments. Oh, they don't chant enough. Well, I got news for you. Nobody does. There's no such thing. You can never chant enough. Could you ever say thank you with your whole life adequately to the experience of being a bodhisattva of the earth? For me, no, you couldn't. I feel like no matter how much I chant, it's not enough. That's my personal sense anyhow. I don't know, maybe I'm projecting that, but you could never feel like, I don't need to chant anymore. I mean, that's not correct. No. All right? Your correct mind would never allow that kind of a thought to come out of your mouth. All right, so defeat evil influence and what Buddhism calls bad friends. That is why correct Buddhist teaching has always stressed the importance of remaining constantly on guard against negative influences, recognizing them for what they are, and battling against them. Again, that will never be a problem as long as you consistently chant with faith to the Gohonzon, because in doing so, you will always be able to successfully,
Yeah.
you'll always be able to successfully identify them, battle against them, recognize them, and so forth. Do you understand? All right. All this time I've only gone like 3 paragraphs. Okay, so page 55 at the top, second paragraph, the first full paragraph. Some 200 years into the latter day of the law, only Daishonin could see these priests' true inner reality of being possessed by evil devils. If a votary of the Lotus Sutra loudly proclaims the truth when everyone else has lost sight of the correct teaching, evil priests who have been deceiving the people will fear exposure and therefore attack that person. Meanwhile, those in the thrall of priestly deception, not willing to recognize their own folly in being deceived, will shun the practitioner of the correct teaching. So what did that just say? They will regard him with hatred and jealousy, speak ill of him, and ultimately persecute him. What does that say? I'll read it again. If a votary of the Lotus Sutra loudly proclaims the truth when everyone else has lost sight of the correct teaching, evil priests who have been deceiving the people will fear exposure and therefore attack that person. Meanwhile, those in the thrall of priestly deception, not willing to recognize their own folly in being deceived, will shun the practitioner of the correct teaching. They will regard him with hatred and jealousy, speak ill of him, and ultimately persecute him. Now, how do we know that? It's from the Encouraging Devotions chapter. You know, it's encountering the 3 powerful enemies right there in a nutshell, right? Okay, so, but it's also, what it's also saying is that if you practice correctly, then you will be obligated to do such things as was just described here. And when you do not be shocked, disappointed, or discouraged by the fact that you're going to find opposition and people telling you that you're absolutely incorrect and challenging you on the basis of whether you know what you're talking about and not being willing to listen to what you're saying. Why? Because it's not up to you and what you're saying for what they hear and what they understand. Do you understand? They have their own karma. Their capacity to meet the correct teacher and embrace the correct teaching is of their own making. It's not you that walked up to them and opened this door for them somehow.
It's not your responsibility.
It's not your responsibility. It's, again, their reaction will have nothing to do with you. It will be a reflection of them. Do not take it to heart as being a reflection of you. Do you understand? Because you've already been told in advance they're going to reject you. So you will not have failed if they reject you. You know, none of the things that they say that are nasty and hurt your feelings will stick ultimately. That's why you've got to get back in front of the Gohonzon. And he's saying that if you're going to practice correctly, you've got to do this. When you hear this, you've got to stand up. And he's saying when you stand up, they're not going to listen. But you still must stand up. Do you understand? All right, so a society, third full paragraph down, first column, page 55. A society where slander of the law is rife, ours is a society where slander of the law is rife, will inevitably become one that represses the votary of the Lotus Sutra who proclaims the truth. So if you feel that some people, more people are going against you than are coming with you, it's already right there. It's, how do we know it's the correct teaching? Because of all the shit we have to deal with in the process of teaching it. That's why the Encouraging Devotion chapter has that 23 verse line. teaching. Okay? That's why this was all left and clarified by Nietzsche, and that's why he's saying, this is what I saw, and that's why I lived my life the way I did, and that's why Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the correct teaching. Because I validated everything. It validated, me doing it validated everything that happened to me as being what would happen if the correct teacher appeared with the correct teaching. Right? So, as counterintuitive as it is, it's not a lack of protection. It's again, as long as you maintain faith, as long as you get back in front of the Gohonzon, everything, you'll always be protected. The evildoers will never be able to defeat you. Ever, ever, ever. They're not that smart. They don't have that much fortune. You will win in the end. All right? Nichiren Daishonin was well aware of this. Even so, he resolved to stand up alone for the sake of the people. Because when we do that, that's what we're doing. We're standing up for the sake of the people, even though we may be thinking we're just standing up for the basis for our own fortune, for our own benefit. Do you understand? Even so, it's an expedient means for us to do the Buddha thing. Even so, he resolved, it's true.
Yeah.
Even so, he resolved to stand up alone for the sake of the people. His awareness of the obstacles ahead of him is evident from the unflinching consideration he gave this matter and the momentous struggle he waged in his heart before declaring the establishment of his teaching. He describes some of that deep introspection in the opening of the eyes. I am confident that the Daishonin's sublime inner struggle, which these words reveal, will be recognized for all time as an important page in the spiritual history of humankind. And it's because, again, he's about to say these words that apply to each one of us. So you could stick your name in there. Because if you have true faith, that's the kind of faith you have. That's called a standalone spirit. It's not based on everybody else being with you. It's not based on anything other than your vow. Period. End of subject. It doesn't go any farther than that. I standing up alone based on a vow is the subtitle, right? Saying, I, Nichiren, am the only person in all Japan who understands this. The Daishonin indicates he alone realizes that evil influences causing people to slander the law are rampant in the land. In light of the Lotus and Nirvana Sutras and other Buddhist scriptures, it is clear that if one tries to alert people to the fact that the country is filled with such slander, then the three obstacles and the four devils are certain to arise. It is equally evident, however, that not speaking out constitutes a lack of compassion, and as such destines one to the hell of incessant suffering in the next life. Consequently, based on the sutras, the Daishonin concludes that he should speak out. Now, contained in there is, again, what I've been trying to say, and here I just saw it, so I'll read it to you so you can understand it from Nichiren and not Tom. He says, in light of the Lotus and Nirvana Sutras and other Buddhist scriptures, it is clear, in light of the teaching of the Lotus Sutra and Nirvana Sutra of what will happen to the correct teacher, teaching the correct teaching, okay? Because they don't talk about that in the other sutras. Do you understand? They're not talking about the law. They're talking about Buddha lands and multiple lifetimes and a bunch of other horse shit. Okay, that's all expedient means. It's only in the Lotus and Nirvana that the truth is spoken as a true teaching. It's why Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is divined from those two scriptures. All right? In light of the Lotus and Nirvana Sutras and other Buddhist scriptures, it is clear that if one tries to alert people to the fact that the country is filled with such slander, to be of the same mind as Nichiren, to read the sutras as they're written, okay, the Lotus and Nirvana, and to see the truth in them that says, okay, the shit's going to hit the fan, all right? Then the three obstacles. So what kind of, are you creating bad karma? Are you a slanderer of the law? Is the devil of the sixth heaven in control of your life when you're doing this? No! That's your fundamental enlightened nature, not your fundamental darkness, all right? So that's when the three obstacles and the four devils come out. That's why I was saying Sancho Shima is something very specific. It's not karmic retribution. Do you follow?
It's not.
It's not causally related as a cause and effect from an existence. It's the fundamental nature of your life that's not pertaining to the manifestation of karma through existence. It's your original state. Do you understand? Your original state contains this. It didn't get manifested from, I hit her and now she's got a bruise. Or I hit her and now she's going to slap me in the face. It's not that kind of causality. It's not the karma that we live in from what we do. Okay? It's the karma that we live in from what we are. Original state Buddhas. That original state contains both good and evil. Understand that. Okay? You clear?
Yes.
That's why he says what he said. That's why all of a sudden he broke into that. Then you're going to get 3 obstacles, 4 devils. Okay? So you don't get this great golden, you did the right thing, you stood up against everybody, and now nothing else is going to be in your way. You know? No. That's not it. All right? So, I already read that whole paragraph. I won't finish it. You understand the point I was making. As if choosing whether to take on the difficulty of sailing in the stormy seas or accept the suffering of sinking into a dark abyss, the Daishonin clearly indicates that the correct course is to bravely venture into the storms of difficulty.
Oye.
Oy,
Uh-huh.
oy vey.
Come.
Let's say it again.
Welcome.
Yeah. As if choosing whether to take on the difficulty, because one is difficulty for the moment, and the other one is difficulty that messes up everything. You have to go through the worlds of delusion. You don't get to be born into the realm of birth and death in the realm of Buddhahood. Okay? This leads to Buddhahood, which is eternal. It's the eternal on switch. It's not something that fades in and out based on karmic influences of existence after existence. Do you follow? It's why I am who I am. Okay? Teaching you who you are. All right? As if choosing whether to take on the difficulty of sailing into stormy seas or accept the suffering of sinking into a dark abyss, the Daishonin clearly indicates the correct course is to bravely venture into the storms of difficulty, and says to us, that's what you shall do as well, if you are my disciple. Of course, spreading the correct teaching in the latter day is by no means easy. The relentless onslaught of devilish functions, when the powerful wield their authority and commit persecution, can take an unimaginable mental and physical toll. Those of you that have ever been ostracized by the organization know how much that hurts, how bad that can make you feel. That can destroy people's lives. That can destroy people's faith. It takes a lot of courage to live through those onslaughts. Your faith has to be deep enough to be able to withstand them. It's much easier to have that depth of faith if you already know it's going to be coming. Okay? So listen to me. It's going to be coming. There's no way to get by it.
It's the same.
It's not important. It's a mere annoyance. It's no biggie.
We are like a peck of dust under the fingernail.
Yeah.
Don't
Okay.
forget.
Of course, spreading the correct teaching in the latter day is by no means easy. The relentless onslaught of devilish forces, when the powerful wield their authority and commit persecution, can take an unimaginable mental and physical toll. The Daishonin, with this thorough grasp of the correct teaching of universal enlightenment, the Buddha nature exists within all people. They're all Buddhas exactly as they are. Possess deep insight into the Buddha nature inherent in human life. Perhaps this is why he could keenly apprehend the fearfulness of the devilish nature that seeks to obstruct the propagation of the correct teaching. Hence he says, if I were to falter in my determination in the face of persecutions by the sovereign, however, it would be better not to speak out. While thinking this over, I decided to go ahead and do it. So fierce and relentless is the struggle against devilish forces that one may well think, if I'm going to turn back once I sail into the tempestuous sea, then perhaps it would be better not to set out in the first place. If being battered by a storm of devilish functions might cause me to falter in my determination, then perhaps I should refrain from speaking out altogether. Now, do you understand what he's saying? There's no pass for going Titan because it was so hard. Do you
It's not
understand?
because of
If
this.
you quit,
If
you will
quit-
have slandered the law. Even if if that occurred because doing this is also difficult. It's really asking a lot of anybody to persevere through it. That's what this is saying. Best not to slander the law. Okay? Best not to slander the law. So why do we take the vow then? That's the whole point. The vow pushes us into like a tattoo state. We wrote on ourselves, I will never quit. Okay? So you can't be influenced by these thoughts. You would never set sail on that journey with the worry of whether or not you're going to succeed. Because you've already taken the vow Nichiren did. Let all the gods forsake me. I will be the pillar. I will be the eyes. Do you understand? That's what this Gosho teaches us. This whole Gosho is about what is the correct attitude of faith. How to be a Buddha in your present form. All right? I'll say it again. So fierce and relentless is the struggle against devilish forces that one may well think, if I'm going to turn back once I sail into the tempestuous sea, then perhaps I would be better not to set out in the first place. If being battered by a storm of devilish functions might cause me to falter in my determination, then perhaps I should refrain from speaking out altogether. Similarly, the Daishonin deeply reflected on the challenges ahead before translating his conviction into courageous action. When he says that it would be better not to speak out if it meant that he would falter in his determination, he is certainly not speaking from cowardice or weakness. He's speaking from wisdom. You better take that vow and mean it and not give it up to the last moment of your life. Or don't go there. That's what he's saying. The Daishonin understood. And why would he say that? Because he's got that worry? He's the original teacher. No. Because he knows this will manifest in the lives of his disciples. And he has to live as the clear example. Okay? That's why he went through all this shit. So that we understand when we go through all this shit. Get it?
Yeah.
We've watched everybody else. Did Makaguchi go through shit? Hell yeah, he died in prison. Did Toda go through shit? Hell yeah, had his health destroyed and died before he was 60. Has President Ikeda gone through shit? We all know. Soka Gakkai split. I mean, yeah. Every one of these great teachers has had to deal with the same functions of resistance. Every single one of them. I was just reading the history. It go back to Nagarjuna. Let's go to the original Mahayanists. You know, the Mahayana Buddhism would not exist had there not been people that pressed past the Hinayana teachings. Okay? And when they did so, the Hinayanists, oh my God, they're not even Buddhists.
Yeah.
Yet, what is the Lotus Sutra based on? Mahayana teachings, not Hinayana teachings. Okay? Because we couldn't pursue Buddhahood with the Hinayana teachings. They limited us to being arhats. They didn't allow for us to hit Bodhisattva or the 10th world, right? So, this always is the way it is. Always the way it is. Never think it to be anything other than that. Where am I? Similarly,
Seminary, yeah.
where? Similarly, I'm
Yeah,
going to say,
thank you.
similarly, the Daishonin deeply reflected on the challenges ahead before translating his conviction into courageous action. When he says it would not be better to speak out if it meant that he would falter in his determination, he certainly was not speaking from cowardice or weakness. The Daishonin understood the true nature of the devilish functions he would be up against. His earnest reflection on which course to take was that of a person with the genuine courage to ponder the incredibly difficult challenge of vanquishing the devilish forces that pervade the universe. Although writing while thinking this over, may give the impression of restful contemplation, an intense battle was raging in his heart, during which the Daishonin, then still in his early 30s, recalled the 6 difficult and 9 easy acts described in the Treasure Tower, the 11th chapter of the Lotus Sutra. Shakyamuni Buddha outlined the 6 difficult and 9 easy acts to the assembly of bodhisattvas to encourage them to make a vow to spread the Lotus Sutra after his passing. The 9 easy acts include such feats as lifting Mount Sumeru and hurling it across countless Buddha lands, or walking into a great fire with a bundle of dry grass on one's back and remaining unburned. Even more difficult than these are the 6 difficult acts, the most difficult of feats possible, which involve upholding and propagating the Lotus Sutra in the age after Shakyamuni's passing. So it's more difficult than running through fire with dry hay on you or picking up a mountain and tossing it. After explaining all this, and the Daishonin knew, that's what Shakyamuni had already said it was, right? He's read the Lotus Sutra. He's reading what Shakyamuni's saying. He's believing it all. He's trying to make it, how does this work? How could this be now? Why is it this way now? Okay? After explaining all this, Shakyamuni urges the bodhisattvas present to vow to exert themselves to propagate the Lotus Sutra, after his death, regardless of, notice that's highlighted, regardless of the hardships it may entail. Regardless means no matter what. No matter what. Later, in the opening of the eyes, the Daishonin cites this exhortation by Shakyamuni as one of the 3 pronouncements of the Treasure Tower. Okay? I won't go back to the Gosho passage. The propagation of the Lotus Sutra after the Buddha's passing is the wish of all Buddhas throughout past, present, and future. The propagation of the Lotus Sutra after the Buddha's passing is the wish of all Buddhas throughout the past, present, and future. What does that mean? That means that the correct teaching is propagated regardless of whether it's the middle day, former day, or the latter day, because the Lotus Sutra in the latter day is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Do you understand? That's the predication of the Lotus Sutra being able to manifest. It can never manifest as the Buddhism of the sowing. It has to have the balancing, documentary, commentaries. Don't forget, I mean, like I said, the Mahayana scriptures didn't appear for 500 or 600 years. There's a lot that went into them that are not in the Theravadan scriptures. Okay, so where did that come from? That came from the minds of practitioners. That didn't come from a secret cassette recording of Shakyamuni at the ceremony in the air. Understand that, guys. So I say there's nothing pure. You're looking for a pure, like, where's the printer, the printing press? Where are the books? No. Much of this was oral teachings that people developed in their own life and passed on as wisdom that ultimately manifested as the drafting of the Lotus Sutra, okay? Which ultimately led to Nichiren's capacity and ability to bring forth the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo within his life and express it to let everybody know that it exists in theirs as well. So he says, after explaining all this, Shakyamuni urges the bodhisattvas present to vow to exert themselves to propagate the Lotus Sutra after his death, regardless of the hardships it may entail. Later in the opening of the eyes, the Daishonin cites this exhortation by Shakyamuni as one of the 3 pronouncements of the Treasure Tower chapter. The propagation of the Lotus Sutra after the Buddha's passing is the wish of all Buddhas throughout past, present, and future. The Buddha, while thoroughly recognizing the difficulty of this undertaking, urges the bodhisattvas who will succeed him to boldly take on this passage. The bodhisattvas who will precede him. Okay? There are no bodhisattvas among the former and the middle day of, among the agamas. Do you understand? Hinayana doesn't have bodhisattvas except in the scripture as otherworldly entities. The 3 difficult human beings couldn't become bodhisattvas. The 3 difficult and 9 easy acts express the Buddha's intent. The Buddha, while plainly indicating the immense difficulty of spreading the Lotus Sutra after his passing, solemnly urges his disciples to make a vow. This can be regarded as a clear message to the practitioners of the Lotus Sutra in the latter day that if they make a vow and establish solid faith in the Lotus Sutra, there is no hardship or obstacle they cannot overcome. I'll say it again because it's so important. Because that's being of the same mind as Nichiren, the vow. Okay? So that's when you get a whole different level of benefit. That's when you become godlike. That's when you become the Buddha rather than the beggar. Do you understand? That's when you always get what you chant for. Always get what you chant for. Everybody wants that kind of practice, but there's a price for it. It doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen without seeking it. It's there for everyone, and it's spelled out in a lot of words on a lot of pages. But the number of people that understand it in a way that they can express it to another human being so that they can assimilate it and then create it in their life is very limited. But it's because it's so strict. You can't do it in 5 minutes. But again, no hardship or obstacle that they cannot overcome. Let us look at the 3 examples of the 9 easy acts that Daishonin uses in weighing his own chances of success. He stresses that he is an ordinary mortal, just like us, describing himself as a person of paltry strength, just like us, lacking in supernatural powers, just like us, and without wisdom, just like us. What he wishes to communicate is that even if one should lack physical strength, lack supernatural powers, or lack wisdom, a person who cherishes a strong vow or commitment to propagate the law and advances together with the Buddha, the Gohonzon, will be filled with infinite strength, courage, and wisdom and can overcome even the most daunting obstacles. That is the message of the boundless hope implicit in his words. If they persevere in faith based on an unwavering commitment in an evil age, even ordinary people lacking in strength can summon up the power of Buddhahood from within. They can become Buddhas in their present form to overcome hardships and transform their lives. Conversely, though some may boast of phenomenal strength, supernatural powers, or wisdom, they may still find it exceedingly difficult to transform their individual lives. What it means to make a vow in Buddhism. After carefully considering the matter, the Daishonin at last makes his pledge. I vowed to summon up a powerful and unconquerable desire for the salvation of all living beings. Literally, a desire for enlightenment. That's what that is, right? Because you don't become the Buddha without desiring the Buddhahood of all. All right? Or perceiving it. And never falter in my efforts. Never falter. That means never quit, no matter what. A powerful and unconquerable desire for enlightenment means the spirit to aspire for the attainment of Buddhahood no matter what. This is the vow of a bodhisattva. So it's not about getting benefits or not getting benefits. It's about true attainment, period. Nothing more, nothing less. That's all there is. Okay? In fact, in the Mahayana teachings, all bodhisattvas are known to make 4 great vows. 1, to save innumerable living beings. 2, to eradicate countless earthly desires. 3, to master immeasurable Buddhist teachings. And 4, to attain supreme perfect enlightenment. Not perfect. To attain supreme enlightenment. Words that constitute what could be described as the original form of these bodhisattva vows appear as a vow the Buddha makes in the parable of the medicinal herbs, 5th chapter of the Lotus Sutra. Those who have not yet crossed over, I will cause to cross over. Those who not yet understand, I will cause to understand. Those not yet at rest, I will put to rest. Those not yet in nirvana, I will cause to attain nirvana. This wholly expresses the first vow to save innumerable living beings. It clearly conveys that the Buddha's actions are based on his resolute vow to lead all people to enlightenment. In this passage, we can also find expressions corresponding to the other 3 vows. A vow in Buddhism can be likened to the power with which to sever the chains of karma, to free oneself from the fetters of the past and to forge a self that can look with hope to a new future. Why does it say that? I'll read it again. A vow in Buddhism can be likened to the power with which to sever the chains of karma, to free oneself from the fetters of the past, and to forge a self that can look with new hope to a new future. Why? Why is a vow in Buddhism, why can it be likened to the power?
It's a mission.
That vow is what makes you the Buddha. Okay? And aspiring to that state is the state of near perfect enlightenment, the 51st of the 52 stages, right? That's being of the same mind as Nichiren. Before you realize that you are the Buddha yourself, if you haven't gotten there, that same vow is the same. It's just one leads to the other. You don't get to 52 without going through 51. Okay? And 51 appears because you're aspiring for 52. Do you understand? So, I say it again. A vow in Buddhism can be likened to the power with which to sever the chains of karma, because we enter the realm of birth and death and the realm of Buddhahood, the simultaneity of cause and effect. All the things that would have kept us a common mortal in all future lives. Immediate flip, infinitely. And for the future, flip, infinitely. Yes. We will always manifest as the Buddha. It's what reveals the truth that we have always been the Buddha. Once we reveal the truth that we've always been the Buddha, we will always manifest as the Buddha. That's why it's the power with which to sever the chains of karma. Only the vow will carry you across the finish line to get you to that state that lasts forever. Actual Ichinen Sanzen. Do you understand? All right. To free oneself from the fetters of the past and to free oneself. How do you free yourself from the fetters of the past? That means simultaneity of cause and effect. Flip. Can't be protected from causes, right? They have to change in their value because they're all part of the fundamental nature of life anyhow, right? They all contain everything. Every cause contains the entire universe. Every aspect, every moment of your life, every moment you've ever lived, all contains the entire universe. A vow, okay. In other words, the power of a vow enables us, because that's the power that brings forth the influence of our Buddha nature, to develop ourselves through the Buddha's teachings. We understand the correct teaching correctly, and to take charge of our own future direction. We change how we behave, not because of book or because of sins or because of advice. We change how we do human revolution naturally. Our minds just morph into a different place over time. It's a fact. It's a fact. That's why if we took the vow, we're on autopilot. All you got to worry about is maintaining the vow. You don't have to worry about getting smarter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just check.
The increase, yes. Yes.
This is
And fulfill the vow. What is the vow, though? The vow is to never give up in the
Never
propagation
give up.
of the law.
and
The propagation of the law. That's not about you. You already know. Propagate means teach. Make everyone equal to yourself. All right? Making a vow, then, is the fundamental principle of change. While it naturally entails trying to change oneself, it is also the impetus for transforming the lives of all people, as seen in the Buddha's vow in the Medicinal Herbs chapter. In fulfilling the vow for the enlightenment of all people in the latter day, the Daishonin, above all, emphasizes the power of faith, because faith is the only thing that opens the door. Do you understand? All right. He, above all, emphasizes the power of faith, because power of faith is what the vow allows you to go through. You can't go through the vow and uphold the vow without the power of faith. The faith is what takes you through the periods of adversity that you are guaranteed to have yourself be challenged by after having taken the vow. The vow is what guaranteed the challenges. and the adversity. Now the only thing that's going to allow your life to overcome it, since you took the vow, is
Okay.
faith. Mugiwashin faith. Do you understand? Same mind as Nichiren faith.
Yeah.
Kosen Rufu faith. Buddha faith. All right? Believing in the boundless potential of human beings as entities of the mystic law, which means as Buddhas, may be considered the essence of the Lotus Sutra. Not only is this an expression of deep faith in the mystic law, but also of profound trust and respect for human beings. They're inseparable. Bodhisattva Never Disparaging, who is described in the Lotus Sutra and serves as a model for propagation in the latter day, was motivated by the same spirit. Although repeatedly attacked with 6 sticks of wood or tiles and stones by the 4 kinds of believers, monks, nuns, laymen, and lay women, he persevered in the practice of venerating others. Sometimes he would retreat to a safe distance and shout words to the effect, "Even so, I respect you. You will all become Buddhas." He continued to venerate even those who showered him with criticism or who physically assaulted him. Bodhisattva Never Disparaging's practice is based on the philosophy that all human beings, without exception, possess the Buddha nature. Above all, he himself appears to have had an unwavering belief in the existence of the Buddha nature within the lives of all people. In dramatic contrast, there is the case of Shariputra, who in a past life allowed himself to be defeated over an ordeal with the eye-begging Brahmin, and as a result returned to the Hinayana teachings. With his good intention, when his good intentions were literally trampled on, and everybody knows the story I'm talking about, so I won't go into it, right? Brahmin asks for his eye, plucks out his eye, the Brahmin stomps on it and blows his mind. Shariputra reflexively cried out, "This person is impossible to save." Ultimately, he lost faith in the existence of the Buddha nature in all people. The Brahmin in this story was the devil king of the 6th heaven in disguise. It is the essential character of devils to strive to prevent one and all from manifesting their inherent Buddha nature. At heart, these dark functions seek to destroy people's belief in the tenet that all people are Buddhas. Understandably, we might feel upset at being hated and attacked by the very individuals we are trying to lead to happiness. But remaining true to one's profound conviction and having studied enough to be anticipating that occurring, like Bodhisattva Never Disparaging, who continues to declare, "Even so, I respect you," is the hallmark of genuine Buddhist practitioners of the latter day of the law. In a sense, the power of the vow. That's why also always forgive everybody in your daimoku to the Gohonzon. Don't ever chant for bad things to happen to them, because just by having the mercy to pray for them in a positive and correct way, they're automatically screwed for having slandered the Buddha. You don't have to worry about their punishment being meted out by your thoughts or your desires of, be pure, they'll get their ass kicked. Every time.
Yeah.
Every time. It's an amazing thing. These people who throw these sticks and stuff, they all went to the hell of incessant suffering for, we already read all this, for a very long time, right? Okay, so the key is to keep your cool. In a sense, the power of the vow or commitment to lead all people to enlightenment sustains an unswerving belief in the innate goodness of human beings, even your enemies, even the people that slander you, okay? As well as in the deep optimism that arises from that belief, that somehow, before it's all over with, you're going to win. Everything's going to be great. Nichiren Daishonin, through his profound vow, boldly stood up alone as the votary of the Lotus Sutra. He steadfastly persevered out of a desire to save all people who were being led by evil influences to commit slander of the law. Consequently, as the Daishonin himself foresaw, he incurred the hatred of people throughout the land and brought a great storm of persecution upon himself. Nevertheless, with the Spirit, I rejoice, saying that I had long expected it to come to this from the actions of the votary of the Lotus Sutra. He struggled on with the resolute spirit expressed by the lines, but still I am not discouraged. Not once have I thought of retreat. Still I am not discouraged from the essentials for attaining Buddhahood. Not once have I thought of retreat from the great battle. So the battle goes on even today on practicing the Buddha's teachings. We can take it that the sole driving force that sustained the Daishonin's momentous, lifelong struggle was the power of his vow. Isn't that what carried President Toda through? It was his vow. Isn't that what's carried President Makaguchi through? Carried Makaguchi through? Yes, and President Ikeda as well. His example teaches us how, by maintaining our own vow, we can become one with the heart of the Buddha, of the same mind as the Daishonin, and bring forth the limitless power of Buddhahood, actual Ichinen Sanzen, from our lives. In a defiled age, it is only through the power of a vow for the enlightenment of all people, the vow that a Buddha makes, that we can defeat the evil functions that seek to incite distrust and doubt. End of chapter 5, and we'll start on page 59 next time.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
you.